All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We're about to get started. I got the green light from Natalie. I'd just like to kick the group off. My name is Tom Mickelson. I'm the President and Scientific Director at the Ontario Brain Institute, which you probably don't recognize as an organization because our job is basically to promote the activities of the country's best researchers, and the ONDRI group is amongst those in the setting of neurodegenerative conditions, dealing primarily with dementia. But we're a government-funded non-profit, and our job is to try to innovate inside the health sector. And the idea is to use data-driven approaches to, look at folks that are dealing with neurologic disorders in the real world, and ideally to bring to government data that will support innovative care pathways, both in the discovery of the way we make diagnoses, the way we track patients, and the way we deliver care. So this is the rationale, not just in dementia. We have a number of different programs that I'll come to in a moment. But the whole idea is to bring together a network. And science these days, and medicine for sure, is a team sport. And the idea is to bring together the experts all around the province and interface with similar experts around the country and around the world. And several of those world-leading experts, of course, are in the room, in the institution, and in our network. The idea is to bring the best information forward to deliver the best care in the right place to the right folks at the right time. The ONDRI group really epitomizes that, and you guys, by your own participation, are allowing us to help innovate and bring real-world evidence into how we deliver care. But it's not exclusive. We have also the opportunity to look at the management of kids that are dealing with cerebral palsy, folks that are dealing with epilepsy that's not well managed by medications, the neurodevelopmental disorders, this includes the autism spectrum and others, treatment refractory depression. We know that depression is a chemical neuro disorder. And of course, the broad spectrum of disorders that are dealing with dementia as a primary symptom, which is growing, of course, in importance and significance because of the aging of the population, present company included. So the idea is to look at neurologic disorders in a clear way, in a data-driven way, and allow us to bring the best science to the patient in the community. One of our sort of driving principles is to make sure that if we don't have a cure for a disease, we better be working on it. So the idea is to push the interface of where research happens, not necessarily in the tertiary and quaternary hospitals or universities, but out in the care and in the community and in the patient's home. And this includes strategies including doing therapy in the home, measuring outcomes and digital health efforts and things like that for folks living with the disorder. And this is the idea through all of our programs across the spectrum of neurologic disorders. So I basically wanted to show that ONDRI is a very prominent part of our network. We are driven to bring innovation to the care for disorders that are plaguing our population, and to try to do that with the best, most compassionate, most effective care possible. And you're going to see this afternoon examples of how that's happening, cutting edge, latest generation, but also with context towards the real world, towards patients living in the community. So welcome, and thanks so much for your presence. I think that says a lot about the network. I know your friends and family and customers are a lot of the folks you're going to be seeing this afternoon. And I'll hand it over to Dr. Macelis to kick off the formal program. So thank you very much.
So thanks very much, Tom. So I'd just like to first start off by thanking everyone who is attending today. Today is all about you actually and your participation in this project. I know that many people here, I recognize some of my families and patients who are here to attend today to learn more about this, but I also understand that there are people who are just here to gain more information about neurodegenerative diseases. So what I'd like to first start off is by just describing to you a little bit about Ontario Neurodegenerative Disease Research Initiative. So this is our ONDRI cube. And so on the face of the cube, we have the different diseases that we're looking at. So we have Alzheimer's disease that presents with primarily memory problems, Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis, which is a motor disorder that causes weakness and paralysis of the muscles, Frontotemporal Dementia, which is another form of dementia, has some similarities to Alzheimer's disease, but is different in terms of the way it presents with behavioral troubles and language troubles. Parkinson's disease, which is another motor disorder, but different from the way that ALS presents, with more troubles with tremor, stiffness, slowness, walking difficulties, but many people can develop cognitive impairment and memory problems as well. And then finally, vascular cognitive impairment, which is memory issues and thinking difficulties that may be related to stroke. So we look across all of these diseases, not only because there are differences between them, but also because there are similarities between these diseases. For example, many patients with Alzheimer's disease have changes that are also seen in Parkinson's disease in their brain. And Parkinson's patients, Alzheimer's patients, as well as some of the other neurodegenerative diseases, all can have changes in the brain consistent with what we call silent strokes or what we call small vessel disease of the brain that can only be seen on an MRI scan. And so this understanding not only the differences across these different neurodegenerative diseases, but being able to understand similarities between them and how they can lead to cognitive changes down the road, I think is very important. Across the top of the cube, we have our different platforms. So we have the gait and balance assessment. We have the genomics platform where we sample participants' blood samples and look for DNA sequence changes that could be related to the disorders that they have and may also contribute to their cognitive and memory changes. We have the eye tracking platform, the ocular platform, where we can look at the thickness of the retina, but also look at the movements of the eyes and how that relates to brain function. We have the brain imaging platform, where we can look at both the structure of the brain as well as the function of the brain. We're just getting set up with the pathology core. And then we have the cognitive testing, the psychology battery, where we do the detailed thinking, pencil and paper thinking tests to evaluate cognition. And then finally, all of this is integrated via our neuroinformatics platform. So we have a vast amount of data that's collected across these different patient groups, and we have to integrate this into a program. And then down in terms of the depth of the cube, we have the different time points. So we have the initial assessment at baseline, followed by assessments down the road. So this is the way we envision looking at neurodegenerative diseases, and the fact that we're capturing information across all of these different data points across all of these different diseases puts us in a very unique, puts us in what we consider a unique advantage compared to other studies where they just look at discrete disorders. In terms of where we are today, in terms of thanks to all of you who are here today, we have been able to recruit over 520 participants into the ONDRI program. This includes not just the people that are doing the assessments, but also their study partners. So we have 126 participants who have Alzheimer's disease, mild cognitive impairment, 40 with ALS, 53 with frontotemporal dementia, 140 with Parkinson's disease, and 161 with vascular cognitive impairment. So we have collected a large data set and have many data points that we can analyze and look at the data. This is just describing where this information is stored. The information is stored in a database that's being set up by the Ontario Brain Institute. This is a secure database where your information is kept in a completely anonymous fashion, where no one can. It's very difficult. It would be to be able to identify who an individual is in the study, and the reason for this is so that we can analyze the data, in different ways. We can blind ourselves, for example, to a diagnosis. We don't know who the individuals are in the study, and we try to understand this. And thanks for allowing us to put this data into a database so that we can use it to try to understand more about these diseases. I'm going to be introducing a little bit to you about the ONDRI Scholars, and this is a group of trainees who have been participating in the study. So essentially what they've been doing is focusing on neurodegenerative research under the guidance and mentorship of both top researchers in Ontario and top clinicians who are doing research across these different neurodegenerative diseases. And in terms of what they do is they perform specific analyses within different disease groups, but also across the different disease groups and time points and different platforms that we have available in order to better understand more about these diseases and how the diseases may relate to each other, how they may be different from each other. And the idea here is that through this research, we're moving the science forward by developing innovative ways to look at neurodegenerative diseases with the goal of improving early detection and ultimately the care that we can provide on an individual basis. I'd also like to thank the 25-plus clinician scientists involved in the study, the more than 25 research scientists involved, the 5 patient advisory groups, 35-plus research coordinators, 7 project management team members, the 10 core support sites, and 13 clinical sites. And they're all listed here at the bottom of the slide. Without their support, we wouldn't have been able to accomplish what we've accomplished. I'd also like to thank the organizers for today's event, so the ONDRI program management team, the Ontario Brain Institute staff, the presenters, table representatives, and also the patient community advisory committee members who have been providing us with feedback in terms of the direction of the study, what are the most salient questions that patients and participants have, and what their concerns are, and how we can help improve their quality of life. So the PCAC mission is to improve and contribute to research into neurodegenerative disease by representing the patient and advocacy voice. And I'd like to encourage members who are not part of the patient community advisory committee, if there's any interest in participating, then there's always more room available. And once again, I'd like to reiterate what I said at the beginning. I'd like to thank all of you who have participated in the study, those who are attending today to get more information about this study, as well as their friends and family who supported them throughout the whole course of the study. As you know, those who participated, it's been a very involved study, and we thank you all for your commitment. And so your lived experience has helped us to advance our understanding of neurodegenerative conditions and how to provide better care. So I'll end there, and I'll just give you a quick rundown of the afternoon. So the first person who's going to be speaking is Brenda Lauren from the Patient Community Advisory Committee. This will be followed up by 2 ONDRI scholars, Chris Scott and Joel Ramirez, who will be talking and giving some information about our brain imaging platform. Then Alison Dilliot will also be presenting. She's an ONDRI scholar who will be presenting on the genomics platform, followed by Derek Beaton, who's a postdoctoral fellow and also an ONDRI scholar. And then finally, we're going to give you a little bit of a taste of where we're moving in the future with the ONDRI at Home platform, and that will be presented by Karen Van Utegem as well as Bill McElroy. So with that, I will call up Brenda Lauren, and thank you so much once again for attending this day. I appreciate it.
Hello there. Let's see. Okay, so the PCAC is our Community Advisory Committee, and it's a group of people who have a common goal to improve and contribute to the research into the neurodegenerative diseases by representing the patients and advocacy, giving you a voice. Who is on here? The PCAC is made up of people from advisory groups, and the individual people are listed on your screen, covering ALS, Parkinson's, Ontario Heart and Stroke Foundation, Alzheimer's, patient caregiver advocates. I'm your voice on this council. We also have the Ontario Brain Institute and ONDRI. My membership and desire for advocacy is very personal. Like many of you, I've walked the path with my parents. My mother had Alzheimer's. My father kind of snapped one day, and we found out that he has frontotemporal lobe dementia. My mom's twin sister has Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So I understand where a lot of you are coming from, and with it being personal, I make sure that your voice is at the table. I'm always thinking of this from a patient and caregiver perspective, and strive to do my best for those who cannot be at the table with our doctors, researchers, and decision makers. I encourage you to get involved and be heard. At one of our meetings a couple of months ago, we had a lot of the researchers and clinicians and doctors there, and we would switch tables, and you got to talk with more people, and I got a better look at things from their perspective, and then they also understood a little more from the family perspective and the patient perspective. ONDRI is open to increasing the membership, and their researchers want to know what we have to say about our needs. As you mingle among the staff and the tables here today, you can feel free to speak with me or any of the ONDRI team or the patient council members about getting involved. I'm excited to hear now from a few of the ONDRI scientists and the research coming from the project that you have so generously volunteered for. Thank you.